welcome to Joffy Books. Today I'm having the honor of interviewing Sue Bentley, the author of We Other and Second Skin.
First of all, thank you very much for inviting me. It's fantastic to be here. To see you in the flesh is wonderful. We Other, okay, well, oh gosh, it's a big book and a lot's going on. But basically, it's set in two worlds. In our own world, where there's a lot of sort of like problems for the characters, and a parallel world which is discovered, which is peopled by fairies. A lot of them are not nice at all. Some are good, and so it's all a kind of backwards and forwarding, and an awful lot of challenges for the characters. So yeah, it's like deep, dark, and dangerous, but glamorous as well.
This book has all things to do with changelings, fairies, and this like dark underworld of this other realm, in a way, the fairy world.
Absolutely.
And I find it fascinating that you have such an elaborate cast of characters, starting with Jess Morgan. She's a fiery creature, but also she has had a very difficult past with her mother's alcohol, bad boyfriend. So when it comes to writing your characters and having such a big cast, who'd you find most challenging to write? And also, did you find anybody really great to write and very easy to write?
Well, I suppose the answer really is that all characters are hard to write, because each one has to be rounded, has to be real to the reader. You know, you've got to have that suspension of disbelief, so that they want to be in your world and inhabiting your characters, which actually I do that. I inhabit everyone. I think that every character, as I'm writing about it, I feel their emotions, and I've written a scene where it's sad and I've been crying, and so the way that I approach it is to do that. I find that the baddies, the nasty characters, are always easier to write somehow, because there's just a lot to write about them. It's quite difficult sometimes to sustain a character who might be a little bit gentle, Yeah. But I like my characters. I mean, I like to give them lots and lots of problems, yeah, I do. Yeah.
You really do.
And I kind of weave within their character the kind of strength and the endurance to sort of overcome those things, so that they will change as the book progresses.
Mm-hmm.
So the question was who do I find most challenging? Well, kind of hard to say, because I think it's all difficult, really.
Yeah, it really is. Like, when it comes to crafting characters, they are people to you. I mean, they speak in your head, and you want to give them the justice that you would give anybody who has their own story to tell. But it's always the evil characters or the bad guys that are, in my experience, easier to write.
You can't have somebody, even if they're a hero, who's good all the time. Everyone's got flaws, so you kind of sort of get that in as well. But it's interesting that as a fellow writer yourself, you can relate with all that. That's what's so good, actually, to talk to somebody that has those same challenges and understands those things, to bring out the depth within each character, to kind of really mine them, so that you kind of look right into their soul, and just everything about them. It's not just their looks, although I have to say, if we talk about looks, the things that you've come up with for my characters, I am knocked out by them. I am absolutely knocked out. I mean, I said, is it okay to fall in love with your own character?
Like, just mentioning, actually, Jess, so how did you actually approach writing her character? Because with changelings, their babies switch at birth. And, that is such a fun concept to play around with. But also, you added on top of that concept a very difficult backstory. She's had a very difficult childhood, and now she is a woman. How did you approach writing this character, and do you relate to her at all?
Yes, I do. I do relate to her. I didn't have some of the same challenges that Jess had. For example, the sort of very deprived background and the alcoholic mother. But I have experience through friends and people of those kinds of things. And with my own upbringing, we didn't have a lot of money. I mean, when I was born, because I'm quite ancient. When I was born, we were, and honestly, I am. We still had rationing when it was not that long into the 50s, and so we didn't have a lot of money. I'm one of 5 daughters, so we had the kind of upbringing where we were kind of very much left to our own devices. Was, for a writer, for me, perfect, because I just lived in my head all the time. And I feel like that with Jess, because she didn't have the things that would kind of smooth the rough edges. She had to be resilient. She had to make her own reality and somehow exist. Well, she's hardly got enough money for clothes. You know, she just wears the same clothes. So with that, that makes you very resilient and kind of aware of your own personality, because you are it. You know, you live in this body, and that's it. So that's how I felt about Jess. I thought that aspect of me, if you like, is in Jess, and so she's resilient, resourceful, doesn't always get it right, but she's fairly fearless as well, because just goes for it.
Yeah, and when brought a difficult situation, she tackles it. What research did you have to do to write this novel? Because We Other is such an immersive experience, but also like it stems from Celtic mythology as well, with changelings and all that stuff. So what research did you have to do to understand the world that you were going to be writing?
Okay, well, I think the first impetus to write it was reading books by like Holly Black, which here I love Holly Black. I've got her book here, this one here.
Yep. I love Time.
I love the cover. I love this cover as well. I just everything about it. And I met her. It's wonderful, isn't it? So that was like a huge thing. I thought, oh my God, I just love this book. And it sort of stayed with me, you know. But yes, I did an awful lot of research. I mean, I've got another one here. So many. This is English fairy tales, book of English fairy tales.
Second Skin is about dragons, shapeshifters, you know, it's so different from We Other, but also very similar as a parallel. What was the differences that you found in between like writing We Other and Second Skin?
Well, I wrote Second Skin more or less directly after We Other, because although I'd planned to write the second one, as I said, of We Other, because it didn't do anything, it just kind of sat there for a while. I thought, okay, well, I'm going to write something in between. And it was supposed to be a quicker process to write it, but it always takes me longer than I mean to. So I wanted to do something that was like not fairies, because I've still got all that kind of in the background, partly in my head. And then I watched Game of Thrones, and I mean that's one of the reasons why I got into dragons, because I just loved that series.
Your fairies are not like Tinkerbell. They're very much dark and brutal creatures. Why?
So my fairies, why are they so cruel? Well, I think that in my fairyland, they've been left to themselves a long, long time. They're very ancient, and they inhabit everything. You know, you've got the dryads in the trees, and you've got the nature spirits, because I kind of have my own sense of that all going on anyway. That's, you know, I mean, I'm not a pagan or anything, but I do have this feeling that the land is alive. I think because of this, the fairies, they seem cold because they have a different sort of sensibility, and they don't really engage with mortals very much. And why would they? Because they're seeing us messing the place up, cutting down trees and all the rest of it, you know. I mean, I didn't really go into that part in the book, but I mean, that's part to me of why they're ancient, they're gracious, they've got their own kind of hierarchy, as you know, the sort of the gentry are the top of the tree, unchanging. You can be killed, so they don't live forever. They can be killed, but they're these powerful beings, and so they can be cruel. But if we think of kings in past ages, they've been like that. They've all been like that. If you give enough power to somebody,
they will utilize it.
Yeah.
It shows like the how like even like with this world, like, you know, there's still very much parallels to our current world that we live in today. And I find that that's very powerful within writing a novel. Was it difficult to weave those worlds together though? That's my next question. Because like the fairy worlds and the mundane worlds, they're totally different, but they also have the same underlying effect when it comes to why they are the way that they are.
I not so much difficult. I mean, I suppose structurally, you know, sort of actually the writing wise, I had to get it right. So I worked hard to get it right. But it's kind of what I think life's like. Yeah. You know, I mean, there's a word in my head which I've had it forever, which you know, we all do. We're all like that. We've got our own reality. And then there's the everyday life that you have to be in. So I might be walking down the street or I'm choosing a book in the library, but in actual fact, I'm in fairyland, you know. really, in my head. I'm working out a plot, or I've got a character talking to me. So it's that kind of juxtaposition, really, of what's going on that you have to do, because we are mortal, with all that. But we all do have this other side of us. We all have this spirit side of us.
Yeah.
So, and we manage that okay, don't we? Well, we have to.
Right?
We have no choice.
Outlets like this, like writing books and telling stories that enable us to share that side of us. Like, it's a beautiful thing. And when it comes to We Other, like, it's 500 plus pages of just amazing writing, amazing storytelling, and also really impactful characters. And that leads me to my next question, which is there going to be another book in the series? I know that you touched upon this before, but, I think that readers will love another We Other.
I think there will. Because, as I say, I had already begun to build some new characters to see how the characters I'd got developed. But I'm very, very aware that in any sort of follow-on novel, you've got to be very careful to make it as vibrant, because otherwise you end up with like, oh, well, that happened, and now she's doing this now, which is no good at all. I'm not going to throw any of the characters out, because I'm very fond of all of them, but there'll be new ones coming along. I wrote a couple of chapters already. My husband's read the first one and he said he loves it. So, but he's biased. But
well, you can always send it to me, and I will also be equally as biased. That's so exciting, though, because, like, when you build a world, like, you don't want to just like leave it out one book, because I did the work, but We Other has such an immersive world that I feel like new characters being brought in, explored, is honestly going to be incredible for us readers. And talking about readers and aspiring authors, what advice would you give an aspiring author?
Well, it's kind of almost simple advice, which is basically do it. You can spend an awful lot of time kind of thinking about it, can't you? And one day I'm going to do this. What sort of novel should I write? And sometimes on social media, I see somebody saying, I'm going to write this novel, and asking for advice. And I think, well, the only way you're going to write it is to sit down, get your bottom on that chair and just literally shut up and write it. And you can do this thing. I'm not very good actually at doing a first draft where people say just like get it all out and then go back. I'm too meticulous. I fiddle with every single line. Do you do that too?
Every single line. I'm like, I can't go back and reread my novels even now to this day as they're printed, because I would want to make edits in a document that has no use anymore.
Absolutely.
I will find any error. I will. Nothing is ever perfection as an author, right? And you always believe. I believe that you actually did a TikTok video.
I did about that today.
And you guys can follow Sue on TikTok and Instagram. She is amazing on there. But one thing that people really underestimate is the fact that, well, your book is never going to be perfect. You think that it might become that way because you are putting in all the effort, but no book is perfect. It just matters that you get the job done, and also that you realize that you wrote a book, and that's an amazing thing. And even if it's 10,000 words or 50,000 or 200,000, it's a beautiful thing to know that you have made a mark on that page.
It really is. It really is. I think, in my experience, because I've done a lot of author events and things, and people, ask me things. I have done writers' workshops at times, but not so many. Yeah. But people, I've noticed, they fall into sort of two groups really. You get the ones that, like me, want to be published. They love books, and so because of that, they want their book to be published. And I used to hold this dream in my mind, as many people do. I've always wanted a hardback, never had one yet, but that in my mind, my book was this hardback, And then there are the people that just want to write. Maybe they want to write their own story, or a family thing or something, and they're not too fussed really about having that much success or lots of books made, and maybe they're happy to self-publish for a small number of books, and that's fine. I mean, whatever you do, whatever your achievement is, if it's what you want, if that's what your heart desires, then that's great, isn't it? You owe it to your readers. I feel I owe it to my readers to give the best book I can, even though, of course, like you, I could easily look at one of my published novels and want to change one or two words or think that's bad or whatever. We're all like that. But, people aren't perfect and books aren't perfect. No. But I do think sometimes people think they can get away with substandard work, and that does irritate me, because I can't read a badly written book. I just throw it across the room. I think, oh my God. When people, you can learn. I don't think anybody
always learn.
It needs to sort of like give up. I think you can learn to do these things, but so many people perhaps can't be bothered, and I just throw the book across the room. I think you can't even string a sentence together. Oh. So you must learn to do that.
Time. Like, at the end of the day, like for me, I wrote my very first novel at 19 with my best friend, which helped because I learned from her. I called her Professor Lindsay because she helped me learn the craft. But it wasn't until I published my last book that I realized that I had no idea what I was writing. And if I did not have my friend next to me, I don't know how that book would have turned out. Nowadays, 7 years later, I know the craft. There's people that are born to be writers, writers and storytellers. I'm not one of them. I'm one who helps bring them to life, but you can learn the craft. I think that's what's beautiful, is that there's always opportunity out there.
Well, I think you can, if you have the passion, you can learn anything, because I'm totally self-taught. I learned all I know about writing from books. I didn't go to university or anything like that. I haven't got any qualifications. I left school when I was 16, worked in a library forever. And everything I know is through reading good books. Yeah, you just need the passion for it and the love for it. It's true, books are my life. If you could see around my room, I think we're in a small area. There's shelves up to the wall, up to the ceiling, I've got hundreds, probably thousands of books actually, because there's more upstairs as well.
Sue, thank you so much for all your answers to these questions. It has been such a delightful time just chatting with you all about We Other. We Other is hitting Amazon on the 9th of May, 2024. So definitely pick up your copy then, but also check out our socials for all the good things, and also Sue's socials, because she is truly a superstar on there. Thank you guys so much for watching, and Sue, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sue, and thank you everybody for watching.